You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
And now, a word from our sponsor, SpyCloud, the cybercrime analytics leader. SpyCloud disrupts cybercrime by telling you what criminals know about your business and your customers, so you can take action to prevent ransomware, session hijacking, account takeover, and online fraud. SpyCloud constantly recaptures and analyzes new data from the criminal underground, including credentials, session cookies, and PII siphoned from malware-infected devices. With knowledge of the specific exposed data criminals have in hand from InfoStealer malware on managed and unmanaged devices, security teams can respond with a more efficient and effective process called post-infection remediation that fits seamlessly into existing incident response frameworks. Get SpyCloud's post-infection remediation guide outlining the 7 steps for preventing a malware infection from becoming a full-blown ransomware incident. Visit spycloud.com/cyberwire. That's spycloud.com/cyberwire. And we thank SpyCloud for sponsoring our show.
Hello, my name is Gary Brickhouse, and I'm a Chief Information Security Officer. As a kid, I always had an affinity for computers and technology and sort of the tinkering that came with that. And I think, what I didn't know at the time, it sort of set in motion, certainly a career that was rooted in technology. And ultimately, that's sort of how it played out, fortunately for me. The boom of the personal computer, the boom of the internet, sort of was able to ride that technology wave, so to speak, into a really long-lasting career. My real desire at the time, I was pretty heavily involved in sports and heavily involved in just coaching, like youth sports, that sort of thing. And so honestly, I had a desire to coach and to teach, and that sort of all wrapped together. And just through a series of events, actually, it was a summer job. To be honest with you, I took a summer job building computers for a company and never looked back. It's funny, as I look back over the last almost 25 years of a career, it's interesting to sort of take an introspective look at how I ended up where I am today. What I found was sort of just riding the wave of growth and opportunity and trying to take advantage of it along the way. So specifically, I think about some of the big technological changes that were happening early in my career really involved security aspects of workstations and servers and an enterprise. And so as the company was sort of dealing with and trying to wrap their arms around it, I was in a good position to learn as I was sort of supporting more of the IT infrastructure at the time. These were all opportunities that I was able to sort of grow into. And it really was a pivotal point in my career to change directions, having a good technical base, but able to sort of transition that into just information security. And then the next massive pivot that took place was compliance driven. The company I was with was really dealing with a lot of new compliance requirements. And through chance, that all ended up on my doorstep. So I became really, really immersed in compliance and, again, in controls and regulations, which, for some people that seems very boring, but for me, it was pretty exciting. So, I kind of went down that compliance path pretty heavy. I ended up transitioning to a different organization, and it was really compliance. That was the transitional sort of moment for me into another company. And from there, my experience up until that point, very fortunately, was enterprise, Fortune 100 companies. So that created a very mature environment around me, sort of to see how all of this governance and risk worked, right? And through that, it provided me just some other opportunity to, continue to grow in that space. In terms of my personality and what I would say are more of the soft skills, I always had a desire and a capability to speak, not afraid to get up in front of a room full of people and talk. And so I think through that, you had this marriage of technical background and some compliance type activities. And you mix that with, somebody who could communicate in business terms. And I think as those three things sort of collided, it really created for me what ultimately turned out to be the primary vehicle that I would leverage really for the next 10 or 15 years of my career. GuidePoint was an opportunity for me to, in some ways, stretch my legs and really start to build from scratch. There were some opportunities within the organization to basically sort of put on this security program building hat and going and doing that. So for me, there was an enormous challenge to walk in from a cybersecurity perspective to services perspective to build out for other clients, what sort of my experience had been up until that point. And so through that just provided, again, opportunity to sort of grow as the company grew in terms of building out a governance, risk, and compliance practice. Some of that, again, I think if you go back to some of the initial skill sets that I think were developed in the years prior, again, everything from communication and risk identification, having some technical background, being able to sort of translate technical issues into sort of business language. I think all those things were critical to just continuing to be successful at GuidePoint, both internally and as we interact and interface with our client base. So my leadership style is definitely not a micromanager. I think that's sometimes it's easier to say it that way. I think in any organization, you want to surround yourself with really talented individuals who know what they're doing. Depending on the skill set and the role, it isn't just necessarily a hands-off, approach. But what I think over time, the goal, right, is to build an environment that's based on trust that allows people to make decisions. And ultimately, if there's a mistake made, great, there's room for failure, but how do we, correct that and grow from it? And so for me, I think that's the most imperative piece is, you hire people for a reason. And so how do we give them sort of responsibility and ownership for their respective areas? So I think that's always been a key for me is, again, people are crazy talented. We want to empower them to go use the talent, their knowledge and experience to make our company a better place. At times, I think if you look at the security industry, you may just see sort of one sliver and think that ultimately, if you're not a hacker at heart, then there's not really a path for you. So I think to some degree, I would want to shatter the myth of, hey, you've got to be super technical to sort of get into the field. And I would say if you want to get in, there are 1,000 different paths into the industry overall, that some are on the softer side, right, that have to do more with governance and policy and procedure and compliance and risk. Those are sort of these softer skills. You may not know how to break into or hack a website, but there's those skill sets are still highly valuable across an information security team. The situations and the circumstances may dictate your effectiveness in a particular organization. For me, I think it really is about character. From the way that I interact with certainly my team, but also my peers, with other leaders in the organization, having strong morals and ethics and just being a good guy. I mean, to me, at GuidePoint, we have one of our core values is no jerks. And just being able to walk away from a career where I have a network of people who certainly I want to be respected for my craft in what I know and have done in the industry. But frankly, I'm more want them to respect me as an individual who did the right thing.
This episode is brought to you by Palo Alto Networks, the leader in cybersecurity. As AI-driven attacks increase, organizations can't afford to have network security that's stuck in the past. Discover how Palo Alto Networks can help you predict what's coming and proactively secure against it with a zero-trust, AI-powered network security platform built to secure whatever, whenever, wherever. To learn more, visit paloaltonetworks.com/network security platform.